Spring is here, and so are spring sports. And my guests today are Kenneth James and Jerry Larson, the athletic directors at College Place High School and Walla Walla Valley Academy, respectively. So, gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having us.
Spring is here. You wouldn't exactly guess it, but we assume that it is really true, and spring sports as well. So, Kenneth, what sports is College Place High School participating in this spring?
With tennis, golf, track and field, boys soccer, and baseball and softball, 6 of them.
You've got your hands full.
Yep, it's the busiest time of year that I have.
Okay, and Jerry, same question.
We have boys and girls golf, baseball, and boys and girls track and field.
Okay, so a busy season for both of you, I know. What does an athletic director do? Kenneth, let me throw that one to you first. What kind of things do you have to do for all of these teams?
We joke at athletic directors meetings that it's all duties, right? AD stands for all duties.
Oh, okay.
But no, it's a lot of supervision, of course, of sporting events, registration of kids, eligibility for kids, and then, you know, all the little changes along the way, whether it's transportation or schedule changes, rainouts, things like that. Prepping coaches, prepping fields. I've been running a robot field painter the last few days, actually, that we got at the school district, so I think it's really, all duties is a good description.
How would you answer that question, Jerry?
Well, obviously that job description changes as the size of the school changes. And so as a smaller school, I also teach 4 classes in addition to the athletic director duties. And so I have a couple PE classes and a couple religion classes, and then some of the same things that Kenneth mentioned. Yeah, it's a time-consuming endeavor for sure.
Okay, now you're at different size schools. College Place High School is 1A, and Walla Walla Valley is a 2B school, one level below. How many students do you have at the school, and what percentage of them, Kenneth, will be involved in spring athletics?
We've got about 480 to 500 students roughly,
okay.
Grades 9 through 12. And we've got over 150 kids participating in spring sports just at the high school alone. So I don't know what the percentage is.
25 to 30% of your students
so
are participating.
Yeah, a good turnout.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Jerry, how about Walla Walla Valley?
Walla Walla Valley Academy, I think we're in the 140 to 150 range for total student population. And then I think at last count we had about 65 or just short of 65 student athletes here in the spring.
So getting close to 50% of your student body is involved in a spring sport. Now that's incredible. That's very, very good. So these kids come in, they want to compete in one of these programs that you have. How do they get started, and what do they have to do to stay in it?
We get registered, of course, and get cleared to compete at whether it's the JV or varsity level, and then show up every day, work hard, have a great time with your teammates, and do what coaches expect you to do. It usually leads to good things.
Is there any kind of doctor's clearance or anything that goes along with that, or do you just accept them at face value?
Yeah, sports physicals are required and have to be current for every season the kids compete.
Okay. And injuries, what do you do about injuries?
Well, that's a lot of different layers to that question. A lot of it's we rely on the local physicians in the community, first of all. Secondly, we are actually currently working on having some sports trainers for the future at our school district. So that'll be something new that we're working with Providence on currently.
Okay. Now, you've got 6 sports to spread yourself across. Tell us a little bit about some of your prospects in those sports and what you expect out of this season.
Well, every season's a new year, and it's hard to really kind of evaluate that until we get out on the game field, which is starting now. We've been practicing for a couple weeks, and we had a softball jamboree last night. Baseball's playing at Mac High today. track and field was at the Jamboree, for example, at Wahai this last week. So we're just kind of getting the picture painted of who we really are as teams or individuals. So that's the exciting part for me, is getting to see kids kind of where they're at now and where they end up later this spring, and where how those teams come together and find some success. So it's hard to predict. I'd hate to say anything, expectations too low or too high, but it should be fun to see them all compete this spring.
Jerry, same question. So you've got 3 sports that you're active in. What do you think are the prospects for those sports this year?
This being my first year at WAVA, it's tough for me to tell. It's even more tough. Not only do I not know from one year to the next, but I also don't even have last year to compare it to.
Right.
I understand that we have some returning female golfers that were successful last year, and also with track and field athletes, a few individuals in track and field that have excelled in their events in the last year. So we're looking forward to that. But yeah, it's kind of tough not knowing the students coming into this year and what the past history was.
Now, Kenneth, you've been with that school district almost from its inception, going pretty close to that start.
Yep.
So historically, what have been the strengths in your spring sports?
Baseball, softball, and track and field had early success, and they've kind of continued that success with some state appearances. Tennis recently has had some success in state qualifiers for the first time. They're all had their moments. Golf, we had a couple female golfers last year make state for the first time for females for our school.
Excellent.
They aren't here anymore, but each spring sport has really had different levels of success. Boys soccer, played at districts last year, so it's really, I'm curious to see how the next couple months play out.
Now, students have to maintain a certain level of grades to participate, correct? How is that handled? How do you handle that at College Place?
Well, you do initial eligibility for the grades coming in and entering the season, and then we actually do a bi-weekly grade check, and their kids are placed every 2 weeks. If they're not meeting our standards, then they're placed on a probationary period. During that time, though, they can still compete and they can work to recover their grades. They get about a week or 10-day window before they start missing some time from competition. And we have some support systems built into our after-school academic lab to help kids get back on track, because we know for sure they're students first, athletes second. So we take that real seriously at College Place, and I think the kids benefit from that, right? Some extra coaches and administrators and teachers with their eyes in the grade book a little bit more, making sure that they're achieving in the classroom first.
Now, when a student starts to let their grades slip, do they have to give up practice and competition, or just the competitions?
In the probationary period, they would only be, they wouldn't be given up either. They would be required to go spend some time and get signed off, for example, in the academic lab or with a teacher each day before coming to practice, but we have some time built in for that. So ideally, they don't miss time during the probationary period, but if they do become ineligible, of course, that would take about an hour away from their time at practice each day, and then some competitions they wouldn't be eligible for until they get everything taken care of, back on track.
Okay. Jerry, what does Walla Walla Valley do to keep their athletes doing the right thing about their classes?
Yeah, so we run grade checks twice a week. Every Thursday we run a grade check for the following week's eligibility, and we basically give them till Tuesday to get those grades handled appropriately. And then we run the grade check again on Tuesday, and if the same classes are still a problem on Tuesday, then we alert the kids that they can't compete for the rest of that week. And then of course later on that week we run another Thursday grade check for the following week of eligibility. So we're 5 days in advance of the second grade check all the time, basically, and so we don't have the resources, the after-school lab, and that kind of thing that we might have at the public school, but we also we do hold them to a pretty high standard, and most kids are pretty good about responding should the grades drop a little bit.
So it motivates them.
Absolutely.
Well, that's good. We want to find out how athletics is affecting our students when we come back from our break. Don't go away. We'll be back in just a moment. Hello and welcome back to Valley Viewpoint. If you are just joining us, my guests today are Kenneth James and Jerry Larson. We're talking about spring athletics. So gentlemen, I'd like to find out not just about spring athletics, but athletics in general. How do athletics benefit the student? Let's start with you, Jerry.
Well, from my perspective, athletics benefit the students in a number of ways. And that's really dependent on the input they receive from the coaching staff that they're involved with. Athletics in general, competition in general, prepares students to be successful in this market sort of economy and culture that we have. But we also believe that athletics has great potential to improve a student's character, develop moral reasoning, and that then becomes a big responsibility for the coaches that have that sort of input on them through the process. So there's lots of teachable moments and opportunities for coaches to be a big influence on kids through that process.
Okay. Kenneth, same question. How do you see the athletic program benefiting the students at College Place High School?
I like Jerry's answer. He did a great job. I mean, I would second a lot of what Jerry had to say. I really think there's a lot of lessons that get taught on the playing field or the court that just don't come up in the classroom. They're not available. We get put in unique scenarios on the sport field or in practice or in competition that really, hopefully, with help from coaches, help teach us some life lessons, right? Some really important lessons that we carry through high school and beyond. And can really help shape their life and help to shape their decision making at times too, because there's a lot of things that happen really quick in the sports world and you have to react. Other than that, there's tons of benefits other than being active, of course, but kind of circling back to what we talked about before with academics, I do think it's really important that they're learning to balance academics and the fun stuff, the sports world and everything that comes with that. And that balance is really important and is going to serve them well in other facets of life as they go forward. And we're all trying to find some balance in life as we go, and juggling those things as a student athlete is probably a busier and tougher thing to do than ever before. We have kids playing sports year round, whether it's the high school and club or a combination of both. So I think that's a great lesson they take away from it.
But some parents say, I don't want my kid doing athletics. They need to spend their time studying. Does that always make the better student?
Well, I think I would hate to kind of make a blanket statement for all students and this is what's good for them. I think that there's a lot of different things that are a focal point for a family, right? What they focus on, what they care about, and they're going to make those decisions that fit them and their family and their students. So if that involves sports or it involves other clubs or activities and music and choir and lots of other things we also have to offer, clubs, then I think there's a lot of those different avenues, not just sports, to get them engaged in something other than the classroom that can be really relevant.
Well, if I remember correctly, a few years ago, your valedictorian at College Place High School was a track star and went on to the university level with the same. So maybe it doesn't affect all students negatively.
Oh, I think there's a lot of reward in it. And he recently, he's still competing at BYU. Actually, he'd come back from his mission, and now he's been on their track and field team and actually having a lot of success at the next level, which is awesome to see. So maybe someday he might be one of our first Hall of Famers. Who knows? At College Place High School.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So when you talk to parents who are concerned about safety, and this is a sensitive area here, and Jerry, I'll let you lead on this one. but parents want to know that the coaches that their child is working with is a safe person to be with.
Sure.
What's done at Walla Walla Valley to make sure that we only get the right people, the right kind of people working
Sure.
with our kids?
So our school, along with the Seventh-day Adventist church school system, requires that all of our coaches go through the Sterling Volunteers background check. They all go through the process. If they are ever going to drive for any of our events or anything like that, they become an approved driver. Their driver's record becomes checked and so forth. And then the WIA has certain levels of training that are required for coaches to make sure that they're prepared for not just CPR, sudden cardiac, concussion, those types of things, but also that they know the rules. Certain sports have specific certifications. I know football, and we don't have football. I know football has tackling and specific things that they have to go through to make sure that the coaches are teaching things in the safest way possible. We have to have certifications for pole vault coach and things like that. So there are a lot of elements that are put into place by the governing body for school sports in Washington that help with that safety aspect. But then we also go the extra mile in terms of the background check and so forth for all of our coaches. And I'm sure that College Place has a similar setup.
Yeah, so Kenneth, I'm sure there is some overlap between what the schools are required to do, but tell us a little bit more about what is done at College Place High School.
It's really almost exactly the same, other than we have the State Patrol watch application background check for an initial clearance. Also, like full-time employees at a public school, they have a fingerprinting and even more in-depth background check. The only other thing I might add is we also have some requirements built into our Safe Schools system that has basically what every teacher or classified staff member might go through. A lot of that is also required of coaches as well, whether that's bloodborne pathogens training or sexual harassment. Any of those kinds of norms in the public school have to be followed by those coaches as well.
Now at College Place High School, do you involve any volunteers, or is it strictly paid staff that do your coaching?
It's a blend. It's definitely a blend, and it really depends on the sport and the circumstance and the availability of people. So I know oftentimes people would love to coach more and be more available, but kind of the volunteer route, creates an opportunity that they can commit to sometimes.
So if a person said, I played in the NBA and I just moved to Walla Walla, and I'd really like to find a place where I can share my experience with College Place High School.
Yeah.
What would their next step be?
Well, it'd really be to connect with the coach of the program you want to be involved in, right? Try to give head coaches that permission to build the program they want to and see fit for their program and their student athletes. So that'd really be the first step, connecting them with the head coach, making sure it's a fit and a mesh, that something that works for us and works for them as well. After that, of course, it would be those kind of the things we just spoke about, like getting them in the door, getting them trained, getting all the certifications done, things like that to get them involved. So they do have a lot of requirements that a paid coach would have as well.
Now, do you have booster clubs?
We do.
Okay.
Yep. And we have a booster club for the whole school as a whole, not unique to sport or club or anything like that. It is done different in many different ways. Some have individual clubs for different sports or clubs or different parts of the school district. I'm actually a board member on our booster club, and I have been for, 5 or 6, maybe more years now.
But if there's a business out there that says, I'd like to support, I'm a College Place business,
Yeah.
I want to get involved with the schools, what would their next step be?
Well, we actually have a sponsorship package, and it's something that we kind of 2 main things, 3 really. 2 would be on campus, the visual things you see, like we have sponsorship signage display board, a big wall in our gym that's got sponsorship ads and business names, and those are various package prices for businesses. And then also we have a lot of sports field banners outdoor a similar thing, but their logo, their look, right, that goes up on our fencing, whether it's the baseball, softball, or the stadium. And then we also do, our other big fundraiser really is our annual, we've started to do it again coming out of COVID, but our Booster Bash, and we've moved that to the fall. We have one September 30th coming up at the fairgrounds, and that's an auction dinner and dancing and live event that we had about over 200 people attend last year. So
Terrific.
That's a big fundraiser for us, a fun time.
Great. Well, gentlemen, thank you both for joining us, and we want to wish you the best in your spring season. And thank you for joining us on Viewpoint. If you have an idea or concept for a future Viewpoint, maybe you want to be a guest, contact us at 509-529-9149. For Viewpoint, I'm Dan Solis.